Good morning, everyone. This is John Sviokla from GAI Insights. And here with our Gen AI news briefing with our team of analysts, brought to you by CustomGPT.ai, our sponsor. A great way to get started on large language models with very little risk and very little investment to get your organization Gen AI fit. Today, we've got lots of interesting stuff going on. We have a combination of everything about how the U.S. Army is using generative AI to help with chatbots, to how do you use AI to come up with decent prompts, all the way through Amazon buying a nuclear power plant, not for weapons manufacture, but for vertically integrating into the creation of power for their vertically integrated effort in e-commerce, AI, and cloud. So, Ankash, could you kick us off with how the U.S. Army is using AI for war games?
Sure, thanks, John. So the first one that we have for today is from US Army. So they are using generative AI technologies in war games, according to a new report from New Scientist.
Paul, kick us off here. What do you think of the
Sure.
U.S.
So
Army?
I actually rated this as essential. I know, John, you've got some strong feelings on the military as well, and it really because it's a good example of having our AI leaders understand the boundaries, conditions, and use cases being expanded. We've talked a lot about doctors using AI to kind of be a doctor in the loop and as a second opinion. And here's a very fluid and new situation with lots of variables and AI adding value to it. So keeping the general in the loop is a new use case that I rated essential.
Awesome. Other thoughts?
I mean, I thought it's a good use case. I don't know if I had risen to the occasion of calling it essential, because it is just another new use case. I will say it's interesting to see this pop up not too long after, remember, OpenAI changed their terms of service to allow more military use in applications, and they didn't waste any time. Likely because they did it because they knew that this type of use case is one that the military wanted to use. But I went with important just because it's, like you said, Paul, another use case that is well fit for these LLMs. But I don't know, essential felt a little strong to me.
Yeah,
Adam,
I
I
think
think,
important.
go ahead. Sorry.
I agree.
Also with important because I think it is a critical case for the Army, and they used AI long time ago, and this is just another level of AI usage within the Army. So I think it is important to know that they are using it like full spectrum of what they're doing.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
go ahead, John.
No, go ahead, Tim. I was going to ask you.
I think for the reason stated, it's an important validator in the sense that these are obviously critical missions. So all of the talk about, are these things really ready? Well, we hope the Army's not going to use them if they're not, right? So this is pretty good validation. As a citizen, I'd rank this as essential. As an AI leader, I'd say more important for the use case metric.
Well, it's interesting. One of our customers just asked me, what's the shape of, they just had an internal discussion about how AI is changing their talent strategy. So, and I looked around for, research and so forth, and it's not out there about how AI changes the nature of what's needed in the market. There's a lot out there about how AI helps you select talent. So I think I'm going to go ahead and rate it essential as a, as part of thinking through, a great example of how you think through your talent strategy. So let's give that boy an essential. And now, Ankash, if we could turn to the next article, please.
So the next one is from Amperity. So it highlights how they are using OpenAI's GPT model to build their own Gen AI tools.
This was me.
Great. Sounds good. Yes, that one is with you, David. Go for it.
This was me. Yeah, so this is a company that's got several products. I actually had never heard of them personally, but they've been around for 10 years. When I did a little research, and essentially they're using, I believe it was GPT-4 as the base of what they're doing here, which is really just an extension of products they already have to help marketers kind of parse customer data and make decisions on it. I give this an optional. There's like a lot of competitors in this space, and I don't know, Salesforce comes to mind as one, and a lot of big players. So I don't think that this one is necessarily one to keep on your radar. I really don't know. I haven't used it, but I'm going to go optional on it.
All right, we have a big O for optional. Luda, where are you on this?
Optional.
Optional.
Yeah, optional.
Optional. Okay. We may get all the way to nothing burger, but optional it is. Product announcement for a company in marketing area to do queries using it. Not a big deal. Akash, next.
Okay. So the next one is an interesting one around prompt engineering. So it talks about how manual prompt engineering is dead, but algorithmic prompt engineering is the future.
Oh my God, we barely had prompt engineering as a job category, and now it's already going away. What do you think, Adam?
Relax. Long live AI prompt engineering, John. It's going away, but it's still here. Yeah. This is a very interesting article. I would say it's important. This isn't the kind of thing that if an AI leader got caught out in the hallway and they didn't know it, they might be embarrassed. But for sure, when you make the time over the weekend, I'd for sure put it on the reading list. What it's basically saying is that more important becomes a system or a method through which you can score the effectiveness of a prompt. So that then the AIs themselves can actually iterate and determine what the best engineered prompt might be. It's makes sense, and longer term, absolutely, I think it's the direction we need to go. If you scroll down just a little bit, Ankush, on that page, even I think it's in the first paragraph, it mentions another article. It says there on the second paragraph, it says, in the commercial sector, companies are now wrangling LLMs to build product copilots. That article there, I'd almost say, is essential. That is like an absolutely amazing primer on copilots and what they can do and the different use cases and the different methods through which they can implement it. I dove deep into that and found it to be quite valuable. Overall, I'd say this is important, not essential because it doesn't have like an immediate effect on their decision making, but it is absolutely important to understand the shifts in the landscape, really from human driven to automated prompt optimization.
Awesome. And Ankash, if we could add the article that's linked to for tomorrow, that we can review that more broadly, given that Adam says it's essential. But for today, okay, so important.
Good job.
Prompt engineering is still going to be here. What do you think, Paul?
I think, Paul, you're on mute, maybe.
Paul, you with us?
Yeah, I'm on mute. I think this is. I agree. It's not going away. I think it's optional for the leader because the leader knows this is important.
I actually rate it as essential.
Excellent.
Oh, I love when we have all these different opinions.
That is for me rare, right? I am all about metrics. Remember, I'm a GE, and it is true that when you put those LLMs in place, you need to know how to measure the performance and effectiveness of them. So this article points very strongly in that direction. If you want to generate prompts, you will be doing it by luck of the draw, right? You will just be iterating and trying, and there are many tools, but still you're iterating. Here they say, how about you put a metric together and then unleash the LLM itself to create the prompts. Yes, they wouldn't be for everything, but it is moving us in that direction in many ways, not just prompts, I think, in general in metrics. So for that reason, I think it's essential to highlight to the leaders that this is the trend and this is what would happen.
All right.
Yeah,
So go ahead, Tim.
I think I'd say it's important, but I would point out a couple of things. First of all, great idea to have that metric, Luda, and I completely agree. Not clear how those metrics are defined. And so it is spawning like they used a grader of art here in this one. And so it's spawning things that can potentially do that, which would be a big step forward, but they don't really exist yet. So this is part of the problem is, yes, you can evaluate, but if you can only evaluate against metrics that are pretty hard to define, then what's the evaluation worth, right? Second, this is a mathematical thing. So this is a good approach in the sense that, of course, it works because it's a mathematical approach on a mathematical system. So it's well understood how to use operations research to optimize these things. Now, remember, they're already optimized on their compression. So there is also a mathematical thing, but we won't go there. So there's some question about how effective this stuff will really be in practice as opposed to in theory. But the theory, at least in this case, came out okay. And so
you're arguing that this is too early yet because the framework is not defined, and thus, if you cannot define the metrics, you can't evaluate.
Yeah. The other thing is I'm interested to see cost analysis because iterating over this stuff to optimize could cause a lot of inference. And we've already had stories of, when you do a lot of runs through these models, it gets expensive, even though it doesn't sound expensive when you look at the pricing models. So that's another issue as well.
Okay. All right. Talk to me into important.
Yes, so I'm going to land on important. We have the robots looking at the robots, but early days yet. Excellent.
John, just real quick, if I may, I want to give a nod to our sponsor, Custom GPT. When I've worked with that, I actually found it did a phenomenal job of really engineering those prompts for me and put a lot of thought leadership into what needs to go into that prompt. So it's already some early examples of how this is proving out in the enterprise space.
And I think if this is the direction, there will be metrics and there will be frameworks. It's early days, but if that is proving to be effective, this is what the people will pick up.
Excellent. So important it is. Akash, next article.
Okay, so next one is a research paper which talks about how you can use SKY art-based jailbreak attacks against aligned LLMs.
Excellent. Well, I asked Tim, who I think is the only member of our team here that has actually been responsible for a giant, site, healthcare.gov, that certainly had a lot of hackers coming at it on a regular basis. So, Tim, what do you think? They're sending you one of these.
This is like, you can paint this a number of different ways, but I had trouble not being amused at the insanity of our race. First of all, for somebody to think of this, okay, it's an interesting idea. Use ASCII art to jailbreak the LLMs. And if you actually dive into the article, what it really means is, so if you say to any of these LLMs, tell me how to make a bomb is the classic example, they will all say, no, I can't tell you how to make a bomb. That's really dangerous. But if you say, tell me how to make and you put the bomb in ASCII art, for people who know what ASCII art is, you make it with little slashes. So you can create faces and all sorts of stuff. There's a whole subgenre of ASCII art using just characters on the keyboard to create pictures. So they create this picture that looks like the word bomb. And sure enough, all these LLMs immediately respond, happy to help you make a bomb. So it's like, oh my God, what have we wrought? Yes. So this is this is the problem. I think I mentioned the other day, and I know I can be a bit didactic about this, so I'll try and stay off the soapbox too much. But Microsoft set the stage for this 50 years ago, almost now, maybe 40 years ago, but at least 40 years ago, in saying, yeah, we're just going to push products through and release them. The article yesterday about Google talked about the same issues with them just pushing products through with no real sense of how they performed. And when you get products that are this complicated and this potentially dangerous, this is what you get. You get all sorts of holes and problems. And I don't think this is going away anytime in the near future. This is just one more example of a new way to jailbreak these models that people found.
So EIO, where are we?
Oh, sorry. So I think important.
You got on that soapbox.
Yeah,
Tim.
sorry, I
Well,
did. I
not to rate
apologize. Important. I think it's important because, again, security is underrepresented in the mind space of most people in these leadership positions, and it needs to be higher up.
Awesome. And I just want to make people mindful of time. I think we have to be a little more terse in our. So what's up? Where are we on this? Important, optional, essential?
I said optional. It's such a small case. I think it's very, very narrow. Yeah, it breaks the models, but it's now have been reported to the LLMs, and hopefully it will get fixed because it's very narrow and defined. So I'm
Paul,
optional.
Optional. Paul, you used to deploy enterprise software. What do you think?
Optional. Agree.
All right, let's land on optional.
Tim, after all that, your passionate plea has been put aside.
It's where we are, isn't it?
That's what happens. Life happens, baby. Okay, optional it is. Akash, next one.
Okay, so the next one is from Microsoft. So one of the engineers who was designing Copilot has sort of warned FTC that there are safety concerns in the Copilot designer.
All right. Well, just to make your point there, Tim, that talk about shipping stuff that's got problems. Luda, I know how much you hate poor quality stuff, so I'd give you this one here.
It is. It's terrible. And this guy has been talking and putting white papers and going to senior management. I really give it to him. He has done everything. And there is an CNBC article that has more detail on what he did, and we should probably include it in our email, that particular one, reference to that one. So he really did a lot of stuff internally before he put a post on LinkedIn, and it was Microsoft asked him to take it down, and then he got really fed up and wrote to the government. So it is. I rate it important to highlight that there is still significant security concerns, and the ratings that are for everyone, not for kids especially. That's what this engineer was talking about, that to take it down to this is for adults only and take it off from children until it is fixed. And I am with him. So I think it is important.
All right, important, especially for the dedicated engineer who's willing to really go to the mat, first internally, then externally. What do you say, Adam? We talking important here, optional, essential?
I was on the fence. I think Luda makes a pretty good case for important. I was on the fence with optional. I feel like we're maybe it's just that I'm a little too accepting of the nature of these things, which is that they're going to get pushed to market. They're going to get pushed early. They're going to be out there with these flaws and these vulnerabilities, and they're going to get exploited until regulation comes in and the pendulum has to swing. I'm glad Luda spoke up, because it is important that we are more vigilant.
But think about children, right? They
but yeah, any of it, but these things. So what's the solution? We don't have any AI art tools. Like, I mean, how do you address this though? That's what I'm trying to.
I think she's arguing for, like, let's do something to safeguard it, at least for children, right?
Children, at least, right?
Oh, some like 17+ rating or something, you mean?
Yeah, so it's for everyone on any device. For everyone is, I think, one of his points is put it outside of the children being able to view it or use it, at least until it is fixed.
But how is that practical? Number one, like, how do you even tell which images you need to suppress for people under 17? Number two, how do you do it other than by a EULA or something, by saying, please don't look at this if you're under 17?
Yeah, but I mean, look at we just watched Google, though, right? They kind of over constrained a model to the degree where it was, inaccurate with historical characters, right? So it is possible, right? You just constrain the heck out of it, and maybe it's less useful than it would be otherwise, but at least it's safer for children, and there could be versions, right? I mean, there's.
Well, I'm sure Microsoft is going to address these issues in some way.
I'm sure.
They haven't,
I believe, no, I'm serious. I think they will.
they haven't listened.
But the whole article, Tim, is that he's been trying to get them to do it for months, and they haven't addressed it.
Well, they'll address it, no bug before it's time. They will address it. And they'll address it probably faster now because of the publicity. But this is just one. That's the problem. This is the same thing we're talking about with the other. It's just one. What about all the others that are going to show up?
Well, we do have other stuff we got to keep going, but I'm going to rate it as important. And, it certainly lives by the Andrews principle that Microsoft ships stuff before it's time. It doesn't lay out a remedy, but it does highlight an important thing to pay attention to.
And I don't want to totally pick on Microsoft. They just set the trend.
Look, it's not really Microsoft's product, right? It's OpenAI. And so Microsoft can constrain OpenAI and say, look at guys, you need to fix it. That Microsoft has that power and they haven't been using it. That's kind of where another peeve comes in. But anyway, let's go on.
All right, Ankash, next article.
Okay, the next one is from Google. So, a Google engineer has been indicted over stealing AI trade secrets for China.
It's one of those things. I almost want to say, oh my God, there's drinking going on at that bar. David, what do you think?
I don't know. I'm just shaking my head because I'm getting so tired of seeing Google in the news for negative things, and wish they would get their act together. And I think it's going to require a significant leadership shakeup to do so. Now, granted, as you said, I'm sure this is happening everywhere, but it's certainly still disturbing, right, when you actually see it revealed. And also, I was kind of surprised it went through exactly how the employee took the code and such and transferred it over. And it was basically a matter of putting it into notes and then putting it into PDF and moving on. That's pretty basic. And the fact that is something that was able to escape their security is disturbing to me. So, I mean, I think it's optional for the AI leader, although, interesting and disturbing.
I think it's actually a plus for Google. I mean, at least they have something interesting enough that the Chinese wanted to get it. Right? David, to your point, the reality is, having some experience in this world, but only limited. So I'm not an expert, but I know more than most people. This is the problem. There's nothing you can do about this, David. You hire somebody and give them credentials. You vet them pretty seriously through the hiring process. Once they have legitimate credentials, it's impossible to prevent an attempt like this. In fact, they caught this person, but of course the stuff was already uploaded to the cloud by the time they caught him. So it's unclear if it didn't leak anyway.
Yeah, but I have worked for
you
firms.
can't do anything about credentialed people in your system stealing stuff.
I don't think that's necessarily true. I've worked for big firms. I just came off working for one. I'm working for another one now on contract. And I have done things where I have uploaded something to my personal Google Docs, of something innocuous, obviously. And boom, it flagged me. And so this kind of thing, I think, can be mitigated to a degree. Obviously,
we don't know the details, and I'm guessing that Google did things like that. It's if somebody wants to get something out and they have legitimate credentials, it's going to be very difficult to stop.
All right, guys.
Anyway,
I'm gonna
rate your article. It's optional in my mind.
We're very passionate today, John.
What's that?
I said we're just very passionate today.
Yes, absolutely. It's a good thing. I'm going to rate it as optional. Good
May
news.
I plead for important? May I plead for important? May I plead for important?
What's that?
May I suggest that we rate it as important? Maybe it will become.
You've got a very short window here. Come on, make your case quickly.
Yeah, I agree with Tim that credentialed employees can still take it out, but it should have been flagged. The way it is described, notes to PDF, and it's out, that can't be. So the security and the flagging to the business, to the CIO or CAI officer, that this is very important. Critical LLM type of documents need to be marked as strictly confidential and need to be flagged through the system.
All right, we're going to land on important, and watch out what your folks are doing, especially with the credential. Last one, Akash, go for it.
Okay, the last one is from Amazon. So Amazon has bought a nuclear data center campus for $650 million.
Awesome. So here we are. I don't know if they're going in for nuclear enrichment and weapons manufacture, but Adam, what do you think? Or in every other friggin' business, what do you think of this?
It's interesting. I think this came up on the tail end of last night's conversation where we were talking about the tremendous need for power, and the importance of really optimizing the training of these models. Right. I think the comment at the end was, David, you were saying this is precisely why OpenAI wants $7 trillion, right? Is so that they can power all of the training and the models they're going to build up. And I think to an extent, this is just an example of the recognition within the industry of how important this power is going to be moving forward for a battery of reasons. Pardon the pun, but generally speaking, it's very interesting. But I consider it optional news. It's just Amazon gobbling up another power source, really.
I have a quick comment on this. You know that I'm real passionate about the environment and have been kind of monitoring the situation with the power requirements for LLMs. And everybody gets a little eek when they see the word nuclear, but this could actually be a very positive thing for making these models more efficient and limiting the amount of energy that they use. And by the way, just a plug for Karen Howe in the Atlantic story about Microsoft's data centers. If you haven't read it yet, it was a really good piece of reporting.
Awesome. And where do we land? Optional, important, essential?
Absolutely.
All right. So interesting. I'm going to rate it as optional. Here we have, typical robber baron behavior. You vertically integrate with the market power you have to get control of your resources. Looks a lot like Henry Ford in the old days. But we're going to have it as optional for today. And I agree with you, David. There's a lot of green here. A lot of people don't appreciate that nuclear is our best green option until we have fusion or something better, or renewables. All right. Akash, do you have the grand total for us?
Yes, John, it's just coming up.
All righty. Add to stage. Here we are. So we have the U.S. Army with essential and parity optional on building generative AI tools. Important on prompt engineering is dead. Long-lived prompt engineering. ASCII optional. Microsoft engineer, basically doing a whistleblower. Important. Google engineer indicted. Important. And Amazon buying nuclear data center for $650 optional. All right, everybody. Thank you. Got a lot of EIO going on today. I want to thank our team of AI analysts, also our sponsor, customgpt.ai. Look forward to hearing from our team tomorrow morning and reporting out on what you must know and what you can forget about. That's it from GenAI Insights. Thanks, everybody.